Hey, what's up? A little bit late doing this. Have not really reviewed Game of Thrones Season 2 that much past the first season. Yeah, I got the Michael Bay shaky camera going on. But in lieu of some stuff that I've been doing in the last month or so, as far as moving, getting stuff rearranged, kind of at a junction right now where I'm just staying with somebody and hopefully get an apartment by August at some point. I'm gonna very quickly touch upon what I've seen with the Game of Thrones episodes thus far up to episode 6. Episode 7 came out last week. Have it on TiVo, hadn't watched it yet, so if I get caught up with that in tonight's episode, maybe I'll be back on some kind of proper track for reviewing these. But for now, this is just a summary of what I've seen of episodes 2 and 3, and what I've seen of 4, 5, and 6. Mind you, I did not see everything with episodes 2 and 3, but I get that it followed the book to some point, and, episode 4 was really the first entire episode that I saw since episode 1, so we're going to kind of go from there a little bit. First off, I have to say that my favorite thing that has emerged out of Season 2 so far is the addition of Miss Gwendoline Christie to the cast as Brienne of Tarth. Game of Thrones might be kind of in the trend of introducing new characters in the seasons that break some kind of the typical boundaries of a lot of the beautiful people that we see cast into a lot of things, particularly on HBO. Let's face it, True Blood doesn't have any kind of breakout characters in regards of having, some kind of token attributes to where they're just set aside. They actually bring some depth to their characters. This is why I enjoyed Peter Dinklage's performance as Tyrion Lannister in the first season so much, and here he continues to do a good job. But Gwendoline has stepped up and embraced this role tremendously. She is pretty much like watching a female version of David Gimmel's Druce come onto the small screen, and I just love this character. Now, look-wise, she's done good at making herself out to be the character from the books, Wolf. But she really brings a lot of depth to that character, and I'm pleased that the show is taking time to pay attention to this character and just done great with it. I really liked her. I've liked the job that they've done with bringing her and Caitlyn in as allies after Renly Baratheon was murdered by the mysterious Shadow Assassin. Some things which did not take place in the book did occur in here. But I'm not going to be one of them purists that, talks about the books too much in regards to like, the small screen failed in adapting it just right. Bullshit. I like that we have other regards that we break out and, show where the shadow came from, which we kind of got that POV with Davos and that really spine-tingling birthing scene from Melisandre. And just seeing the shadow just come up and out of nowhere and just whack Baratheon like he did in his tent was just damn good. Other things which are done in here, I really like whoever they got cast as Jaqen Hador. He's done a pretty good job, and some nice fan service was seen briefly from what I got to see. Rorge and Biter, who are two of my favorite bad characters from the series. So there's a particular scene that I'm waiting for to show up with them, and hopefully they pull it off really well. The stuff with the Lannisters, alright, I think we need to break down what's going on with Sansa right now. Alright, so Sansa is recently going through some growing pains, and she's being hounded by Sandor Clegane. Oh god, I just made a pun. Never mind it. But they're doing really good there. Joffrey is still a little pompous Antichrist sitting on the Iron Throne. And I hope somebody gets rid of him pretty soon, gives him his just desserts for all the bad problems that he's been laying out upon everyone. Pretty much a lot of the stuff in here is satisfactory. It's not blowing me out of the water. with a lot of the fan services that are done in here, but it is well done for the most part. I will give this show tremendous props. It certainly made Daenerys Targaryen for the second season, at least her parts from adapting A Clash of Kings, so much more interesting than what the book did. Clash of Kings was a great book, but the Daenerys parts were dry. I mean, they were drier than a Dornish whore. And it's kind of interesting to see all the trouble that Daenerys is going through, although I do think they're dragging on some parts a little bit just to give her some screen time and say, hey, remember this character that we've got far to the south? Yeah, we need to do something with her, but she's going to come back and do something good. So it's pretty good seeing it played out a little bit more interesting, but it is kind of lagging a little bit. I haven't seen the past episode where she finally goes into the houses of the Undying, so maybe that, which was the only good part of her from that book, will be so much more interesting. The thing is that after the first book, I really didn't like Daenerys so much. You know, she stopped being an interesting character, and she was just more of the plot device and the focal point of the point of view that we need to be reminded of what's going on with her and her posse in books 2 and 3. Our problems with Jaime Lannister. Alright, so, you know, recently Caitlyn and Brienne have banded together after a lot of Baratheon's followers think that Brienne actually murdered Sir Renly, or King Renly, excuse me. And now they're after her, and they pick up Jaime Lannister, and they're going to go break off from King Robb and try and ransom Jaime out for Sansa and Arya, not knowing that Arya has fled. This is good. The stuff with Jaime is kind of interesting, and we just established how much of a bastard that he is, and it's going to kind of be a major build up to a big twist that I know that we're going to see with him once the third season rolls around. Apologize if I'm spoiling too much, but I don't like being bound by certain restrictions. Perhaps I should have put up spoiler warnings as I was going along with this video, but, you know, sorry. Which that's not really a spoiler, that's just a hint, so we'll keep going. So, yeah, I really like where they're going so far with this. They're doing pretty good with Jaime. I'm actually glad that we're seeing some particular scenes included which establish either how good of the characters that we like or how good of the characters that we love to hate in these stories are going. And while they're starting to give a little more time to Jaime, I like what they're doing with him. And they're also doing a good job of further making characters that we hated in the books. There was really nothing to like about them. We just hated them, and that was it. And they're doing a much, much better job with the matters of Theon Greyjoy, the poor little squid from the Iron Islands. This show has done much better of exacting just how pathetic this guy was. Until we got his point of view in the second book, he was just kind of a character who hung around in the background. And the first season kind of just hinted a little bit more of how much of a pathetic, wallowing sack of shit that this guy is. And I mean, God, his shortcomings are so obvious, and I can't remember who this guy is that's kind of goading him along into you know, trying to manifest his badass self. And he's been talked into doing some pretty sadistic things, and he kind of sucks at it. There was one thing that I liked that this book did, and I can't remember the character of who they killed off in the start of episode 6 at Winterfell. But I like that we include the fact that Theon is shown as so pathetic. It takes him, like, he is no Ned Stark. And they would sit there and say, well, you're not the, you know, Ned Stark would be disappointed. I'm not Ned Stark. and you're shown exactly that he's not Ned Stark and how pathetic he is when it took 3 whacks for him to chop off that guy's head on the execution block. So they're doing a really good job with that, and I do think that the actor portraying him is doing quite excellent at that as well. Varys. I haven't really seen Varys all that much in the matters of him and Littlefinger. We got kind of a little bit of some stuff that wasn't included in the stories with Littlefinger. I especially like that moment when Cersei seemed to have the upper hand and just sort of show force of arms about who's really in charge to this guy. But I do think that he still could be a problem to them later on. We haven't really seen Varys that much. I don't know what Varys is doing in all this time. So, you know, the spider's around somewhere weaving the webs. Things are continuing to go on. Let's see, and I've talked about pretty much everything. Oh yeah, there's... Oh yeah, the bastard. Alright, meanwhile, with all the stuff that's going on the wall with Jon Snow, we're off a wildling hunting. I think that the stuff concerning Jon and the members of the Night's Watch are probably the biggest sidetrack that I would have to complain about how they're taking something from the book out of context, and about how early they're establishing certain things in the story. We're kind of taking a twist with this, which is something that I do appreciate with the shows that adapt something from a particular type of source material. I'm grateful that we're having some unpredictability go on in here, otherwise I would be bored. But I was kind of surprised that we're getting the matter of Ygritte and the other wildlings introduced into the story. But then I have to realize that sometimes I have to pull myself out of, you know, thinking in the mentality of the books and saying that certain things took place later on. There was a large gap of chapters for Jon in the book, and the thing with Ygritte didn't really show up until the end, so I suppose that's the proper time to be covering it. I can't remember the name of the actress who's playing Ygritte, but giggity, God, she looks good. I got a thing for redheads, so it's kind of exciting. They play around a little bit. We're trying to kill time is pretty much the idea that I'm getting with certain characters in the show, and this is kind of what they're doing with Jon Snow. The 6th episode, where it kind of ended with a cliffhanger of him being surrounded by a lot of Ygritte's friends, is certainly making things interesting. Perhaps we're arranging a meeting with Mance Rayder sooner than expected. So if they do kind of put a twist on what happened about how Jon and the Half Hand came across Ygritte in the first place, it was unexpected, but it is welcome. As I said, I do enjoy unpredictability, but a lot of stuff is done pretty good in this so far. Overall, I don't really have any complaints. This is more just me expressing my opinion about how good I think the show is continuing to do, and hopefully for the remaining 3 episodes of this season I can keep on track with reviewing the remainder of them. But for any of my subscribers or anybody who happens upon this, tell me what you think about what's happening with this season thus far, and that's pretty much it. So look forward to tonight's episode and expecting a review of it in the next few hours.